We were losing about $4,000 a month when I took over. You know, the one thing that I wish I would have negotiated, you don't have to buy a business. Like they need to sell a business. You don't need to buy one.
And you just thought, hey, things are going really great here. I'm going to make my life so much harder.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Wyatt Devlin, good friend of mine. We met almost 10 years ago in college. We were both working at a call center, both graduated, both got corporate jobs, and now only one of us has a corporate job. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was going to say one of us has a job and one of us is broke is what it feels like. So I quit my day job. When was it? January 2024. And I bought a business. And I run a mobile tire and oil business called Quarts and Lugnuts.
Okay. So we'll stop there for a second. So now it's been just over a year before you tell me more about your business. Just over a year of being a business owner. How many years kind of working for another company?
Like post-college?
Yeah, post-college. We're not including the our call center time.
Or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Beep.
It's on my LinkedIn. It doesn't really matter. Oh, there you go. Actually, I don't know that it is on my LinkedIn. All right, maybe I'll edit that. I don't know if I need to.
That's fine. I think people enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
So I've been working for, I guess, out of college since 2021. So this will be year 5. So not a lot of, I worked at Tesla and I worked at Avantgarde, I worked at Autoleaf.
Okay, so Tesla, a little controversial right now.
Yeah, it was controversial then, but for different reasons.
So what did you do for them?
Yeah, so I graduated college during COVID.
And what did you study?
I studied, the exact title is Advanced Vehicle Systems.
Which means?
Very niche. It's basically automotive engineering.
Okay.
Is one class difference, I believe, at BYU, Idaho, which is where we went to school, from automotive engineering and advanced vehicle systems. The most of my college, what would you call them, peers, go on to work at places like Ford, General Motors. All of those places during the pandemic were not hiring. They had the big hiring freeze. Because I finished classes there, I should say, in 2020. And then I worked and finished my degree at the same time. So Tesla was hiring, and they had this program called START. And it was, we just graduated. I had a little boy, and we just needed a job. And so the START program is they send you to, mine was in Texas, and they spend 3 months basically taking mechanics and explaining them how to work on, EVs, on Tesla specifically, obviously. And so me and my wife moved to Waco, Texas, and we rented a house for 3 months, and we planned on moving to Plano. And anyways, I worked on Teslas, and we did the program there. And then after the program, they give you interview at other service centers, is what Tesla calls their dealerships. And I got a job offer in Waco, and the last day I got an offer in Salt Lake City, which is where my family's from. So we ended up taking that offer and moving back here.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like Tesla was a pretty good opportunity and got kind of lucky there at the end, getting to come back to your roots.
Yeah. We were planning, like we had an offer in Plano.
Yeah.
That we were planning on taking. And it just happened to be, and we kind of had a tough year, not a tough year, but that time in Texas.
It was COVID, right?
It was COVID.
Who wasn't having
My
a
wife
tough
was
year?
pregnant, and like my kid threw away our car keys, and we'd spent our last dime moving out to Texas. And it was like, so we had to borrow a friend's car for a time. Like, it was a nightmare. And we ended up buying a car at a junkyard, and I put a new engine in it, and it was a nightmare. Like just some dumb young kid stuff. You know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can tell, but sometimes I do some dumb young kid stuff having to do with engines too.
Do you remember when we bought your first bike on Copart? That one that we bought. I don't know if it was your first bike.
It wasn't my first. It was my second bike. My first flip though.
Your first flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we that was so much fun. I remember thinking, because it ended up being like very cheap.
It was
sub
stupid
$2,000.
Sub 3, including shipping and parts.
Yeah.
But I sold it for, I think 4 or something.
Yeah.
I made like $500 profit, which
I'll never forget driving it that first time. The first time I drove a motorcycle was your 650, that Ninja. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a problem. So I've been staying away from them because it's too addicting.
I remember when we went over to that church parking lot and you were having such a good time in first gear.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like, dude, you want to have some more fun?
Yeah.
Second gear.
No, it's too scary for me.
No, that was so much fun. Yeah. So I get car problems, engine problems.
So anyways,
I get that.
We're in Texas. We have these car problems. We moved back to Utah. We start saving for a house. We start doing this thing. And Tesla's a really unique obviously it's unique, but their pay structure is really unique for all their employees. Is they kind of don't pay a lot hourly or salary, but then they give like very generous stock bonuses.
Okay.
So like while in Texas, I met a guy in Austin who'd been there since the beginning, and he made $24 an hour, and he had like $8 million in stock. So like just such a weird, like he's a mechanic.
Well, I hope he either holds those forever or he sold before 3 months ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't sold any of mine.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I just
Either.
pretend it doesn't exist, and one day, if I need the money, it's there.
Yeah, one day. I mean, it'll go to zero or it'll go to the moon, right?
Probably. Yeah. It might have already gone to the moon.
Mars. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Mars. Yeah.
Okay, so Texas, Tesla in Texas, and then Tesla Salt Lake City, and then your last job before becoming an entrepreneur. What were you doing there?
So I worked at a company called Autoleave in Ogden, Utah, and they make airbags. So I was the long titles. It was project launch project quality engineer.
Yeah, that's too many words.
Way too many words. They called me, the division I worked in was called launch, and I worked in driver. So we made the driver airbag. I worked on specifically the Mercedes-Benz program.
Okay.
And I worked on Stellantis, Fiat Chrysler. It was the Dodge model year 2025 airbag.
Okay.
So that was a really cool company. My family's my background, like my family background's in manufacturing. So it was kind of fun to work in manufacturing. And it was really, really a cool opportunity. When I started there, they told me, the average employee had been at this company for like 13 and a half years.
That's a good thing to see at a company.
It's a great thing to see,
yeah,
but it was not true.
It was true 13 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. By the time I quit, I'd only been there for like a year and a half, and I was one of the most experienced, maybe fourth most experienced quality engineer, like in the plant. Scary.
Yeah, that's not good.
But it was a really cool opportunity. I had the most amazing boss I've ever had, Robin Snyder. She's amazing. You can give her a shout out.
Robin.
Yeah. But she was awesome. She was amazing, and anyways, it was a great opportunity. I went to Poland, and I went and helped with a plant out there, and then I worked very closely with the Mercedes-Benz team. And yeah, we made airbags.
Awesome.
And robots. So.
Okay, so you were at this awesome company. Really loved your boss, not in that way. And you just thought, hey, things are going really great here. I'm going to make my life so much harder.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Okay, tell me about that jump.
So at the meantime, I'd kind of just worked on cars on the side at my house, just for neighbors. And then, and just like people, like just word of mouth, and people just started calling me like a lot. Like I started getting, like I had 2 jobs at at this one point.
And I remember this time because I was having some car problems, and I was like, maybe Wyatt could do this.
And I think I sent you to somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just started working on cars on the side, and I realized I was like, I enjoy this more. And I think I make more money. Like if I was doing this full time, I could make like significantly more money. The automotive industry right now is kind of having a crisis, just like everywhere else, the labor shortage, right? There's just not a lot of qualified, really good mechanics out there. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty.
Yeah, of course.
They're not being paid properly is maybe more accurate. So they want to go do other things. So anyways, I'm working on cars just out of my house, driving my wife crazy because we've got, we just have a little house. And I've got 4 cars.
I get it.
Customer cars there. Yeah. Surrounded by motorcycles.
I know the viewers can't see every bike in here, but there are 5 motorcycles in a 1-car garage.
I think between you and I could touch them all right now.
Yeah, we could. We don't have to do it, but we could. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I get it. Wife going crazy. Okay, so what happened next?
So I'm at this point I'm doing like what happened next? That's a great question. I've always kind of wanted to own my own business.
So that has been a dream of yours always.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of grew up in a family of business owners. Like most of my relatives own a business. So I've just kind of been indoctrinated in like with businesses around me.
Right.
And they've all done really well. And like, obviously when they're doing well, like the reason you want to do a business is because they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You don't hear about them having to take on a payday loan or, some like high interest thing to pay, make payroll happen this week.
Yeah. They've all been in business for years, like 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're at the good part, So anyways, I get this crazy idea that that's what I'm going to do. And I go and I'm starting to look at shops first is what I'm looking at.
Like auto shops, mechanic shops. Yep.
And there was one I was looking at here in Utah, and it was expensive. It was like $700,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I've got $700,000 laying around. Not, right? But they were doing like good numbers, like $3 or $4 million a year. Like it was a good opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't want to have to leverage myself out that much.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I could get a loan. Likely, I probably couldn't. And anyways, I see on this website, Biz Buy Sell,
mm-hmm.
I see Quarts and Lugnuts mobile tire shop is for sale. And I contacted the guy early, and he wanted way too much money. Do we want to talk about? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of our listeners that we have so many listeners, just so many. I think a lot of the listeners would be interested because I myself have also been in the position of having that itch of, just wanting to be an entrepreneur. Tried a lot of the under the table side hustle type stuff until
legally under the table.
Legally under the table, obviously never made more than the IRS floor of $600 where you have to report anything over that. Obviously never made more than that on an annual basis. But yeah, I've tried a lot of those things. And I think a lot of other people have at least had the idea of wanting to try something entrepreneurial. And I think a lot of people, they think that they have to have this killer idea to start their own business. And they don't realize, like, if you follow people online, if you're in the business space online, then you've definitely heard about, I buy boring businesses and I make so many millions of dollars. But like, how do you do that? What does that even look like? Buying a laundromat or an auto shop or Quarts and Lugnuts? Like, what happens?
It's not complicated. It's scary. It's like scarily easy.
I think people think it is though. So yeah. Tell me like what makes it not complicated?
There's these websites where they are just listings of like you would sell something on Facebook Marketplace. And it's just like, hey, here's my business for sale.
Except less pictures and less information.
There's no pictures. And actually, when you're looking at them, they don't provide the name.
Yeah.
So there's always a broker. And these brokers, man, I don't know if I like that business, but they make a lot of money and I don't know what they do. They're like, anyways. But so I see this business on there and it's like, chance to own a mobile tire company. And so I reach out to the guy and I figure out the name. And he wanted $250,000, which I did not have.
For how much annual revenue or claimed annual revenue?
Claimed annual revenue was $300,000.
Okay.
The other thing I've learned is everybody on their lies. Whatever they're telling you, it's likely half.
However
or
much
that was
money
their
they're
best
making.
year one time,
We made this much almost 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
3 years ago.
Yeah, so I see this on there and I've been messaging the guy and I message him earlier in the year, probably in the springtime. And I said, I can't, 250 is too much. And at the time he had 3 vans and a trailer. So a tire changing van, which we were just in outside, 2 oil changing vans and a trailer that was set up to do tires. Honestly, not a bad price. I just didn't have the money for it.
I get it. Yeah. So, I mean, there's plenty of like bike deals that I do where I'm like, hey, this isn't a bad price. I'm just not going to pay it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, here's my offer.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not worth more. I'm just not going to pay more.
So I think I offered him $150,000.
Okay.
And he said, no way. I've got somebody else I'm way more interested. And I said, okay, great, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, totally fine.
And I'm looking at other shops, and like I kind of take a break from looking for a while because summer came up and we were having fun as a family. And I had a great job. My job, I had every other Friday off. Yeah, sweet gig.
Okay.
It was awesome. So we were like vacationing a lot, and I guess short whatever weekend vacationing.
Hey, you make
regardless.
it happen.
Yeah. Anyways, we're actually coming back from Lake Powell, and this guy calls me, and he's like, "Hey, like maybe I would consider less money." And this is several months later. This is like July, and I think the initial talks were in like April.
So that more interested buyer, not that interested.
Yeah, well, and I was talking to my dad and I kept talking to people about it, and they're like, "Wyatt, just remember, like, you don't have to buy a business. Like, like they need to sell a business. You don't need to buy one.
You have a job,
Yeah, exactly.
a good job,
Yeah.
where you can likely get promoted and make plenty of money in a career.
And I got a great promotion around this same time. It
Yeah.
was like a 13 or 14% promotion.
Yeah. that's
So
great.
it was like, oh man, like even more incentive to stay.
Yeah. Like, I don't need this. He said no, whatever. Like Powell.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, let's go boating, right? So, anyways, we end up just kind of here and there talking, and he keeps telling me he's interested, and he calls me in like October, and he's just like, okay, like I need to do this deal. What do you want to do? So we ended up structuring it to where I would take on a loan for one of the vans and then pay him the rest of the money, and it ended up costing me like $70,000
Out of pocket.
out of pocket.
Okay.
I didn't have $70,000 in cash. Most people don't. So I did what apparently everybody does, and they HELOC their house. And
Not financial advice.
not financial advice. Don't do it. But we were going to do that or an SBA loan. And at the time, SBA loans were like maybe 2% more than the HELOC.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was talking to the person at the bank, and they're like, oh yeah, when you do the SBA, you have to put your house as collateral.
So you're like, this is
So I'm
sort
like,
of
it's
just
the
a
same
HELOC.
thing. Yeah. It's just the same thing. One's just done through the government and one's done through my bank.
Yeah, like this is a worse HELOC with different rules.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly what it was. So yeah, I ended up doing the HELOC, and I bought the business, and there was one employee that came with the business. Like he was still working there when I took over. And then I bought the business in November, late November or late October. I can't remember, of 2023. And I found, the one thing that I wish I would have negotiated, and for people that are like, the guy did not want anything to do with the business at this point. He'd already had a day job for 8 months.
So you're talking, he had already felt that way. Not like clean cut on the sale. You're saying that for months leading up to the sale, he hadn't really been involved in the business.
No, he had no idea what was going on.
Okay, so day to day, he's not involved at all leading up to the sale. So you're trying to
For
get
months.
information out of him, and he's like, I don't know, ask my employee.
Exactly. He's like, he'll onboard you for everything. And we sat down for an afternoon, and he gave me information, and then I don't think I've seen him in person since.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I would negotiate like, hey, you need to stay on for 2 weeks. And I would negotiate like, hey, we'll finish the payment. I would withhold some payment until this 2 weeks period is over.
Right. Negotiate a 6 hours of hand holding every day.
Yeah. Or even it could have been less. I understand this guy had a day job, but like maybe 2 hours a day, an hour a day would have been huge. Cause like some things just never got put into my name. And then he's like, hey, why did I get a bill for this? And I'm like, I didn't know you had a bill for this. Like,
didn't know we didn't know we had a relationship with that company.
yeah. So I ended up having to pay some stupid bills that I think he probably should have had to pay. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
So anyways, I buy this business, and I'm thinking, oh, it's at least like breaking even, making, according to the books, it was making some money every year.
Mm-hmm.
We were losing about $4,000 a month when I took over, which is awesome.
Dude, some of the people, I don't know how many people are going to listen to this episode, but some of the people listening to this don't make $4,000 a month, and you were losing $4,000 a month right off the bat.
Right. Yeah. And I talked to a financial advisor. We have this guy, and anyways, he's like, expect not to pay yourself for 6 months to a year.
Which is reasonable, I think,
which
to
is
tell
reasonable.
you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wish I would have listened to that more.
Instead of banking on like, okay, well, but next week though, things will get better.
I was like, oh, it's already
next
running.
month,
It's
yeah,
already doing so much money in
I
revenue.
just step into this great business, but if the business is so great, why
Why
do
they
you
sell
really
it?
care to sell it? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So business is not nearly as profitable as you wanted it right off the bat.
No. And I mean, some of it was they were in the slower. No, I'm not even going to say that.
No
just-
excuses.
Yeah, we just needed some help. And the guy's actually a great guy, the old owner. He was a pest control guy, which in Utah there's a kind of guy that does pest control, and he did really well. Like, frankly, I think he's really good at that. This business just requires a different thing. It needs an owner operator. It needs a guy that like understands kind of the needs for this business.
Yeah.
And when I took over, I kind of imagined what this guy imagined, that, you know, people would want this business because they don't want to spend 3 hours or 2 hours in a big box store where they go get tires and sit in the waiting room and try to play freaking.
Which is a real thing, by the way.
Oh, you're playing
Like,
doodle jump on your phone or something for 2 hours.
Like, I mean, you know better than I do, but even just relatives that I have are like, oh, I had an appointment to get my tires done at Walmart or Les Schwab or, you know, wherever you're doing tires. Like, they make appointments with you just so you are committing to come in. They don't hold those appointments. It's like, it's kind of just first come, first serve. And you
Yes.
do end up spending several hours just to get new tires.
Yeah. I mean, in a
Which
perfect
makes a
world,
huge
it's
case
45
for you.
minutes. And that, I mean, in that case, it works great.
I've never heard of that happening.
It's very rare. And it's not their fault, the businesses. It's just the way their business is run. That's how it works. First come, first serve makes the most sense. So I kind of had this vision of like soccer moms, too busy. They don't want to do that.
Yeah. So before we get into details here, like, I just want the listeners to understand, like, so your Quarts and Lugnuts has been making money in how many ways? Mobile tire changes
Yeah, so we do
Mobile
tires,
oil
oil,
changes.
brakes.
and brakes.
That's really the core of our business. We do other light maintenance like batteries, light bulbs,
And you
wiper
come
blades.
to customers' homes, like, you know, when you had one of your employees come and do our brakes a couple months ago. So
Yeah. Do we had a guy here? I forgot. Yeah. Oh, you texted me. I remember now.
yeah, we had a couple of issues with the website, which is fixed now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, that's another whole, we can talk about
There's
that.
so
forever.
many more things to doing business, especially like acquiring customers, accepting payments, you know, managing a schedule. You know, there's all these things that we could get into. We don't have to with everything, but I just want listeners to understand like how your business makes money. Like, what do you do?
So that's
with
our
those
core.
3 things.
Yeah.
right?
Our core thing is tires, oil, brakes.
For just individuals.
And we do mostly fleets.
Now, right?
Now.
You do mostly fleets. Okay, let's get
Initially,
into that.
It was
Why?
all individuals.
Yeah. So why do you do mostly, or why do you want to do mostly fleets now?
I think my company's value proposition is higher for fleets. So let's take, for example, a guy that is a roofer.
Mhm.
Let's say he pays his employee $20 an hour. I hope he makes more than that, but let's say he makes $20 an hour.
Sure.
So he's got to drive to Jiffy Lube, or we'll cut that out. He's got to drive to
Don't drive to jail.
he's got to drive to a quick change oil, like a large company, a franchise, right? And he's going to drive there, and let's say that takes him 10, 20 minutes. Luckily, if that's best case scenario,
Right.
he's going to sit there for, again, let's say best case scenario, he sits there for 30 minutes, and then he's got to drive back to the job site. He's been gone for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
My service is not the cheapest service around. You can definitely go get oil changes at these other places for cheaper,
Or do it yourself.
or do it yourself for
Yeah.
sure. But by the time you pay that guy to go do that, and then you lose out on the money of how much money could that guy have made your company, these oil changes are costing companies a lot of money,
Mhm.
you know? So it makes a lot more sense to pay me marginally more, not lose any of your opportunity cost, keep your guy on the job site, and then he never stops working. He hands the guy the keys. A lot of them don't even hand the keys anymore. Our policy is put them in the gas cap on the job site and we'll just take care of it.
Yeah.
And some people only know that we were there because the sticker's been changed and there's a new air freshener in the car, you know? So that's kind of our value proposition for fleets, and it saves them tons of money.
Yeah.
I really am a big believer that like what we offer saves companies tons and tons of money and downtime.
Okay. So you bought this business. tell me about, did you ever manage people at any of your jobs before?
No.
So first time managing employees, you started with one employee.
Started with one.
And you have how many now?
I almost immediately hired another guy at the time.
Okay.
So I had two.
So tell me about managing people. How has that gone within your business?
At the beginning it was tough because you just don't know what you know. So you're crappy at it. Like, frankly, one of them was my cousin. He was an intern at BYU, Idaho. So he was there with me very briefly. I just wasn't good at it. I think I'm better at it now. I still don't think I'm great.
I think that's so important to recognize, though. I think so many people don't recognize what they're not good at, and they're not willing to outsource. Say, hey, I'm bad at this thing. Like, not everyone needs to do their own accounting.
Right,
I'm bad at accounting.
Most people shouldn't do their
I'm going
own
to have
accounting.
someone else do it.
Yeah.
Or like, maybe I'm not great at talking to people. Maybe I shouldn't be my own sales guy. Maybe someone else should be the face of my business. So I think it's important to recognize that, like, hey, I wasn't great, especially at first. I was not good at managing people.
I was very much a micromanager, and I was like, did you top off the wiper fluid?
I'm sure they love that.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. And it's funny because I gave one of the employees, I was on him like constantly. Mm-hmm. And the other one, I just assumed he was doing the right thing. And I was wrong on both accounts. I should have flipped the way I was doing it. But what I kind of took from that experience and then working in so as a quality engineer, my job was to write, they're called PFMEAs. I couldn't tell you what it means now. It's instructions, work instructions. Mm-hmm. How do you ensure that in every part of my process, like, nothing can happen? So, for example, like when I was working with airbags, they would say, how do you control at this point, we're about to put the cover on the airbag over the bag. How do you ensure that there's not a piece of metal or something in the bag? Like, how do I ensure that this is the way it's supposed to be? So there's several ways you can do visual inspections. That's so it gets a low rating of visual inspection because it's dependent on the operator, right? On some operators, that's 100%. On other operators, that's 10%, So we're like, oh, we'll put in cameras. Oh, we'll take pictures of every single airbag. Mm-hmm. Oh, we'll store them, and then we'll have AI. We started using AI towards the end of like, hey, recognize whether there's something in this that shouldn't be there. How do I know that the emblem is straight? Same thing. Oh, we'll take a picture every time. And then we take a picture of the welds on the back. How do the welds look? Is the height correct? So it's hyper obsessing about these little things. So I kind of took that to the oil change. Like, obviously there's way less things to go wrong, but I mean, ultimately an engine can blow up. And it happened with the last owner. They blew up one.
Oh, really?
I think maybe two or three.
And he had insurance to cover that, right?
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I'm going to say that. But I know that fleet no longer uses us.
But to be clear, you do have insurance.
Yes. Yeah, I've got insurance for all
Yeah. And so if that were to happen under your ownership, yes, it would be a problem, but not a huge problem. And the customer would be compensated for that.
Of course.
They would be taken care of.
Absolutely. Yeah, we would never do that to our customers.
Okay, I derailed you a little bit.
Yeah. That's all right. So, like, the way we kind of ensure that there's no problems is, I'm kind of going off on a tangent.
We were talking about employees, but we can talk about how good your business is.
No, it's not. It's not that it's good. It's that it's, sorry, I'm totally derailed now. Basically, we have processes, right? That I've just ensured that, like, my employees, I don't grade them on how good of a mechanic they are. It's how well do they adhere to the process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I really like that. I think that, I love what you just said there, because I think that makes it so anyone could come into this business as an employee of yours with limited knowledge or no knowledge, really, and just give them the paper of, like, you do 1 and then 2 and then 3, and that's how you are successful here.
Right. It's the McDonald's method. You've heard, like, Ray Kroc, that's one of his big claim to fame is he writes these incredible work processes.
Yeah.
That, like, you can train anybody. You can train a robot to do.
Yeah. Yeah, in the end, I don't know about all industries, but in a lot of industries, we call those SOPs, just standard operating procedures. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really how you, especially in these less creative roles where you are, like, in a service job, especially, like, you're fulfilling a service, there's a certain expectation of, like, you start with this, you end with this, that point A to point B, that is the service. And so it should be standardized, and providing that to your employees rather than them having to think of, well, should I do it this way? Should I put the oil in the engine? Yes, you should. That's part of it.
Right.
Oh, I left an air freshener last time. Oh, maybe we should do that this time. Well, it's in the SOPs. We do it every time. We provide high customer service every time.
So then you say, how do I know that they put oil in? How do I prove these things to the customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I say, you have to take a picture of I make my employees write, what is the torque spec of the drain bolt?
Oh.
Because then they have to have looked it up, or they're going to lie, and they have to torque stripe it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they put on the oil filter, if it's a cartridge style, they have to initial it with the date and what the mileage was. So then I know, did you put an oil filter on? Well, where's it at? And then I make them take a picture.
Yeah.
Air filter, picture of the air freshener in the car.
Mm-hmm.
To where, again, I'm not judging oh man, this guy's a great mechanic. He knows these little tricks to get his hands into. It's none of that. It's how well can you follow the process?
Yeah. So measuring your employees' success is really about how good you are as a leader of just creating the process for them to follow.
Right. And I realized that's what one of the big downfalls at the beginning is. I was hard on my employees, but there was no procedure. They were just I just said, go out and do an oil change. And I showed them how to do it on several cars. Right. And
you just do all this stuff.
You think it'd be obvious, right? But
but it's not. I think
it's not always obvious.
I think last year the word
mechanics
obvious,
are going to laugh at this. They're gonna be of course it's obvious.
Of course it's. Yeah, I think last year the word obvious became my least favorite word in the English dictionary, because if it were so obvious, you wouldn't say the word obvious. The other person would know. Right. So having to use the word obvious implies that you didn't make it clear. And it's not about you, but it's just, in general, I think that whenever we state something, oh, obviously we do it this way. Well, actually, I think this. Well, if it's so obvious, why are we having a discussion about it? And so I think it is really important, especially for employees, to have an expectation, because if they're being measured by some metric they're not aware of, then that's not fair to the employees, and it's not healthy for them or for you to always be like, they didn't do this thing that I didn't actually tell them to do.
Yeah, it's it's like measuring how much did the customer like the service.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know, employee, tell me how much they liked it. They don't know, right? So you come up with, obviously reviews are a great way to show that, but how fast was your service compared to your other services and things like that. So anyways, managing employees is tough. I've learned to back off and I've got a guy right now. So I had two, like I was saying.
Yeah.
They both, my cousin that was the intern went back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy left the business. The other guy went back to his home. He was out of state, and he went back to where he was from.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hired my current employee.
Who's great, by the way.
He's excellent. He's better than two people combined on it. He's really so good.
I'm not just telling you this because, I want you to feel good, but he was really good.
Yeah.
When
he's very knowledgeable. He's a mechanic though. His customer service skills can leave a little bit to be desired. But you don't have to worry about him missing bolts in your car, which I think most people would prefer.
Even his customer service, I asked him a little bit, or actually I didn't even mention the tires, but he just remarked about it when he was here doing our brakes, and he was like, hey, these tires look good, by the way. I don't remember what we have, but he was like, that's a good tire. We sell a lot of those, and the tread looks good. And I asked him, hey, what about the front brakes? What do you think about those? And he's like, honestly, you don't need to worry about them right now, but maybe in a few months you might want to look at that. And I was like, sweet, I'll give you guys a call then.
That's awesome. That makes me really happy to hear that.
Yeah. I'm not making any of that up. I don't know if he remembers it. I'm sure he does lots of jobs, but yeah, he did really good.
Good.
Yeah.
So I've kind of told him the problem with most mechanics, right? And I would not call us mechanics by any stretch of what we do. We do light maintenance. The problem is everybody is worried that their person's going to rip them off.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who to trust. So how do we address that? Well, I have visual indicators. I don't know if you use that for your brakes, but you can put a little thing in and it says, hey, this is how thick it is.
Yeah.
And they're color coordinated. Green is good. Red is bad.
I was working. I didn't watch him do the whole job.
He probably did. It's probably in some pictures somewhere. So being transparent and saying, hey, these brakes are probably okay for a little while.
And it was winter too. It's time or going into winter, it's a time to be a little worried about your brakes. You want to have good brakes in winter.
And I don't think he would tell you hey, if they were ready to be due, he'd tell you they were ready to be due.
Yeah.
Right. But some shops, And then that's what people fear is like, is it ready? I don't know. Like, that's why I'm paying you because I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, there's a knowledge deficit on my end. You have the knowledge, so you tell me what I need and I will pay it. And so there is a fear of like, well, since you have more knowledge than me on this, you can take advantage of me.
They can and they will.
Yeah. Yeah, you have every advantage in this situation, and I just have to pay whatever you say it is for whatever job you say I need.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So building that trust is what is really, we've kind of found like the key to our business is people want to be able to call and say, they don't want to talk to some automated, hi, welcome to blank. Like, do you need tires? We sell tires.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you call our business, you get myself or my employee. And if we don't answer, we'll call you back. And we're going to say, we kind of go off of the thought of we would rather have fewer fleet customers that are loyal to us. Mm-hmm. And we negotiate like flat pricing with most of these fleets on most so we'll say, hey, all of your diesels are going to cost X amount of dollars. That way they don't have to worry like, oh, well, the Chevy is $10 more than the Ford.
Yeah.
I'd say we're going to make a little bit more money on the Fords and we're going to make a little bit less money on the Chevys. I don't care. I want to keep you happy. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and I think that's what people miss. And that, again, going back to quitting my corporate job, this is what people want in like a lot of business is they just want to be able to call Matt and they want to say, hey, Matt, I need tires.
Yeah.
Can you come tell me if I need tires? And you show up and you're like, you don't need tires yet. You go another 6 months.
Yeah.
Or they say, yeah, you really should do tires,
Yeah, I think in the automotive industry especially, I think you can build a lot of trust by telling customers what they don't need. Because everyone wants to hear, like, do I need this? Yes. But, hey, just so you know, I was looking at this. Those look great. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
I think anytime you have the opportunity to tell a customer, you're not going to need to spend money on this thing, a little bit of trust is built there. Because that's like kind of free advice that you just gave out. Cost you nothing, but it provides a lot of value to them, I think.
Yeah. I just walked a company's lot this morning at 6:30 and I just checking tire tread depth.
Yeah.
And they have like 70 cars and there was like 20 there and they were all fine. And I think they appreciate just being like, hey, I'm just here. I'm just going to check your tires for you.
Yeah.
And we don't charge anything for that. And I just say, hey, you're good. Like, you guys are good. Like, I want to keep your guys' fleet on the road. Mm-hmm. And some companies think that they're in the business of maintaining their cars. They're not. They're in the drywall business or they're carpenters or they're plumbers. Do what you do best. Like, spend your time doing that and let me do the thing that I'm good at.
Well, let's talk. Let's get just a little bit deeper here. Tell me about what's some of the biggest struggles that you've had as you've been running your business that you didn't expect?
I expected that when I took over, and I think a lot of people do this, and they obviously realize this isn't true. Like, but you kind of expect everybody to treat it like they own the business,
like your employees.
Yeah, the employees, and they don't care.
Even your great employee who did a fantastic job at my house, but he doesn't own the business.
No, it's his job. Mm-hmm. And he wants to do a good job. Like, don't get me wrong, he wants to do an excellent job.
Yeah.
But he doesn't stay up at night wondering, like, oh, could we bring on 2 more fleets? Or like, what would it take to do X?
Like, oh, am I spending too much on Google ads? Or should I be putting more into meta ads?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are ads? No. And that's kind of my fault. Like, expecting some of these guys, like I expected my guys early on to do like cold calls. Mm-hmm. And early on, because we didn't have the customer base that I thought we had,
right?
I spent all day cold calling. Like, I would literally spend 10 hours a day cold calling, which I don't recommend to anybody. Like, it's the most miserable.
Did it work though? Before you say,
so
I don't recommend
it's
that.
So
okay,
effective. Yeah. I would say pace yourself a little bit.
I just want to clarify that before someone hears, I don't recommend this.
No, cold calling, I 100%. It's the best. And there's probably a better way to do it.
I mean, warm leads. Like, if you have better
I'm
leads,
too
call
farmer,
those.
Man. I can't figure it out the other way. I tried the ads, the Google ads, the Facebook. I tried ads, and I tried like business networking groups. Cold calling works the best because, again, what I really think I sell is connection. Mm-hmm. I sell, this is my phone number. Call me. We'll take care of your fleet for you. Hey, a text message. Wyatt, truck 43 needs an oil change tomorrow here. And then as long as I can fit it in, I say, I can't do tomorrow, I'll do Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Like that's what I sell. So it's learning how to build that connection. I don't know. Cold calling's just worked, but I would not do 10 hours a day. And I was expecting them to do like hours and hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care. They don't care like I care. They're not going to, they're not going to call one, type their little notes in Google Sheets and then call the next one. I was trying to do 100 a day. So I think that was a mistake. The other mistake I made is cash flow.
Cash flow. So what do you mean by cash flow?
You just don't know how much the business is going to cost until you're like running the business. Because like we would sit down before we bought the business, just like I'm sure everybody that's ever looked at buying a business does, and they do the math, and you're like, I'm going to be freaking rich. Like,
I'll retire next year.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of like crazy thinking. You're wrong. You won't. So, you sit down and do the math, and like we would do the math on like, okay, here's our cost for the oil change. Here's our cost for labor. Here's our cost for this and that. And we would just guess what insurance would cost. And like all of those other things that you just like the things that you don't know what are going to cost so much money. So yeah, cash flow that's what kills most small businesses is that like, if they could just make it another year or two, I really think most businesses would make it, but they just can't keep the cash flowing up. So, and we run net 30. So like, we're obviously not getting paid like the day we do the service, but
right.
Like, the tire bill is still due and I still have to buy the oil and the filters and I still got to pay my guy. Like, and then what if net 30 comes around and they're saying, oh, well, we need net 35 or net 40. And it's like,
well,
yeah, you're like, well,
I needed net 20.
yeah. Net 10 would have been a lot for me to ask, but, so there's kind of those unexpected things. Gosh, what else was unexpected? Everything was unexpected. I didn't realize the strain it would take on my marriage would be another one too.
Yeah.
I love my wife. She's very supportive, but there are days that she hates that I run a business.
Yeah.
She's like, why do we not just have our nice corporate job back?
Yeah.
Like you were off every other Friday. Like you weren't working weekends. Like, why are we doing this? And I keep, and we talk about like, well, I'm hoping that this will pay off big over the next 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, it sucks now. And you're like, that's true. Like,
yeah.
That part is true sometimes. So that was very unexpected for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of something that a lot of entrepreneurs underestimate, and I think it's great to be married, while you are starting a business, because then you already have a super fan.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to acquire a supporter. You don't have to talk your friend into it to be able to support you. You already have someone who has your back and who wants you to succeed. They have a vested interest.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. When your mortgage is on the line. Now, I almost partnered initially with another person with a 50-50 partnership. Oh. Glad I didn't.
Yeah, glad you didn't.
He's a great guy. Still a great friend, but
it had so many layers of complication come in when you partner with somebody.
Right.
And I think that this is probably another topic, but I think that when you do want to partner with someone on a business, it should only be 51-49. Someone needs to be the one holding the reins.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you know any naval history, but can you name any boat that had 2 captains? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they take shifts.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, I think that people don't talk about the strain on your relationships. Like, we don't hang out much.
Yeah.
And not just your marriage, but the strain on relationships. We're like, we're friends. We see each other every few months at best.
Yeah, at best.
And then I wake up early, I stay up late. I know you've done the same thing where like you were walking the yards or the lots at 6:30 this morning. And then if you get a call and it's an emergency and something has to happen tonight at 11 p.m., what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to be there, right? And
unfortunately, I can't say no to money.
And I think your wife would not be stoked about that, but sometimes that's what it takes, right? Yeah, so we talked about a lot of things: starting your business, acquiring the business, running the business, employees, hidden costs, and how everything's more expensive than you thought it was going to be. And now we're just touching on, relationships and the strain that it puts on that, and especially your most highly valued, most precious relationship with your spouse. But then also with your kids, if your kids wanted to start a business, whether it's this one or another, another industry, what would you say to them?
So I'm going to take your question, put it in two parts, if that's okay. I'm going to talk about the kids later. I'm going to talk about like my relationship with my wife first. I would make sure that when you're doing it, you both say like, it's that old Viking thing. Like we're going to burn the ships, right? Like we're going to land and like we are going bankrupt or we are doing this.
Yeah.
And those are the options because frankly, those are the options.
We will either be rich or homeless.
Yeah. I told people, they're like, how is the business? I said, depends on the day. Like some days it's the greatest decision I've ever made. And like other days, like you're a Viking without a ship, dude. You're like, how do I go back? And I think all that part's normal. It's definitely put a big strain on our relationship. The number one strain, more than it's obvious, financial problems make everything worse, right? Yeah. So we only started taking a very small salary in October of 2024.
Wow.
So nearly 8 months, 10 months without having any money coming in. And we would take we loaned the business some money and we paid that loan back to ourselves. But it was like, we're like fighting for scraps, like taking extra jobs that I normally wouldn't take, like maybe some mechanicking jobs just to like make ends meet. So that adds extra stress anyways, like as everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a threshold where money and happiness don't correlate, but there is one where they do.
Yeah.
Like we are under that threshold. So I mean, I would really sit down and make sure like you and your wife or you and your spouse or whoever say, hey, are we really okay with going a whole year without taking any income?
Yeah. Which is a lot.
It's a lot. And I think if you can say a year and say, we're going to try really hard. So it's only 6 months. But if it's a year, like it's going to be a year. Cause that's what I tell my wife. As soon as we started, I was like, honey, don't worry. Like, I know that advisor. What does he know? Right.
What does he know about businesses?
Huge 500 Fortune 500 companies. What does he know about this? So yeah, it's like, just be willing to go a year. Say, can we go a year without bringing in any money? And then the other thing you really need to sit down and say, and I've talked to a lot of my family members that run businesses, and I've been really lucky that I have these like huge pillars I can ask questions to.
Yeah, you've got built-in mentors, within your social circle.
Yeah, and that's killer. Like that really is killer. Like, I would definitely not do without having those built in or having one I could lean on.
Yeah.
That's actually done it. Because like a lot of people think that if they're a manager at a place, that's not the same as owning the place.
No.
Because again, they don't think about the Google ads and they don't think about like, is our click-through rate high enough or like any of this other things, right?
What's my CAC on this?
Yeah. They don't care. So make sure you have a mentor that you can lean on and like sit down with them and be like, hey, just so you know, like I am going to need like some help. Maybe quarterly is what I do with one of my uncles. I meet with him quarterly. I take him out to lunch and we chit chat. And it's huge. It's such a help. So make sure you have that. And again, make sure you're willing to go a year. And then also be willing to go say the first 5 years are the toughest. So like we want to be paid within a year, but are we okay with being poor for another 4? And like, that's almost harder. Cause like now we make a very like less than half of what I was making before.
Now you're up to the poverty line.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're just broke. But so just say it's going to take 5 years, like 4 to 5 years. And I hope everybody that if anybody starts a business, it doesn't take that long. But just be ready for that to be the reality.
Yeah.
And as far as my kids, would I recommend it for them? I think so. I think it's important for people like to do what they're passionate about. And then like, you're like, oh, you're passionate about tires. Like tires isn't what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about relationships. Like I love talking to people, obviously.
We're here.
And my business is built on relationships. So I call these people, these fleet managers, and I talk to them all day and I know what's going on in their life. I'm actually going to, one of them is retiring after 37 years. And shout out Naomi. And I'm going to her retirement party.
That's awesome.
And it's awesome. It's really cool. So like, that's what I'm passionate about. So I could pick any industry and find what I like to do is talking, right? So yeah, but I like this business and I think it helps other businesses.
Yeah.
So I don't think the business itself, like some people get caught up in like, what are you selling? Like if you're passionate about your product, then like sell your product. But like, it's really, I think, important to narrow down for like my kids. I'd say like, well, what do you like about X? And like really find out what that is. And I think I encourage them to do it. I think it's like overall, it's like great for our country. Our country's built on small businesses, and that's getting maybe a little high and mighty, patriotic there. But I really do think it's important. And I think like it is like, it's a part of like the American psyche. It's like there's some value placed on, I don't know why. I don't know why we do that, but we do place some value on like business owners.
I think
it's weird, right?
Talking about the American psyche, I think that America was built on underdogs, and we like seeing underdogs win. We don't care about the big dogs. The United Healthcare, like way too, like I'm not advocating for murder.
I was
like,
gonna say that's a controversial take there, Matt.
Way too many people were like, oh yeah, like clapping in the streets, like this is like celebrating a murder. Because
it's wild.
Yeah, crazy. But because he works at this evil corporation, this massive institution, we would never do that. Like small business owners shot in the street, like no one's going to celebrate that. Like we want to see the little guys win. And it gets to a point where like they're too big, we don't care. In fact, we hate them, they're so big. But I think the American psyche is all about like we want to see the little guy win, because that inspires me. Like I'm a little guy too. My brother, he's a little guy. My sister, my friends down the street. If they can do it, then I can too. And so I do think that like a small business it's part of the American dream.
Yeah, I think there is some truth to that. And like the thing I've also realized as a business owner is like there's nothing wrong with also if it's not for you, that's great. Like businesses need good employees. Like it seems so obvious when you say it out loud. Like not everybody should be a business owner.
Yeah, definitely.
Most people probably shouldn't. But there are those out there that kind of want that, and I don't know if that's what they're called to do, but like there's something inside them that yearns for that.
Yeah.
And I think like they should try for it. But again, there's no like disgrace in being like a guy that works at a business.
Yeah. Like an employee. There's nothing wrong with being an employee.
No, it's awesome. Like it's no stress.
It's
like,
awesome to not worry about Google ads at 11:30 at night.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like, oh man, is the registration on all these vans due? And like, anyways.
Well, here's to people finding what they want to do. Business owner, employee. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah. Quarts and Lugnuts. We love it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. Let's do okay, so where can people find you? If they want to get in contact with you, they're in the Utah area, or if they just want to chat, not in the Utah area, where can people contact you?
So quartsandlugnuts.com is our website. You can book on there. Our phone number's on there. Again, we're just small town America. So you can find us. Quarts and Lugnuts. We're on social media. We don't do a good job there. But yeah, like our phone number, you can call us on our phone number, or you can book online.
And then if someone wants to like network with you personally or talk business with you, should they reach out to you through Quarts and Lugnuts, or is there somewhere else?
There's a contact us form on my website. That would be really good to fill out.
Cool.
You could try LinkedIn. I can't guarantee I'm going to respond anytime soon. Yeah. If it's important to you, don't reach out on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man.
Thanks, Matt. It was fun. Okay.